Hi, and thank you for tuning in to the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. Today we're going to read Genesis 45, verses 21 through 25. And so let's jump in. It says in verse 21, "So the sons of Jacob did as they were told. Joseph provided them with wagons as Pharaoh had commanded. And he gave them supplies for the journey. And he gave each of them new clothes. But to Benjamin he gave 5 changes of clothes and 300 pieces of silver. He also sent his father 10 male donkeys loaded with the finest products of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other supplies he would need on his journey." I just want to pause there just to remind you of where we're at. Yesterday we read of how the Pharaoh said to Joseph's brothers, "You can move here. We'll give you everything we have access to, the best of our land, the best of our produce. Come on over." And I talked about the favor of God and how when we walk in obedience, it also creates an opportunity for those around us to be blessed. And so now they're following orders. Joseph's sending them off. He's like, "Hey, let's do what he said. Go home, get everything you have, pack up, we're moving." And so he sends them with those things. But listen to verse 24. It says, "So Joseph sent his brothers off, and as they left, he called after them, 'Don't quarrel about all this along the way.' And they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan." When I read that, it caused me to pause, as Pastor said. What is going on here? He literally loads them all up, sends them off. They have a long day's journey. It's estimated that the distance was about 250 miles between where they were living in the land of Canaan and where they were now in Egypt. And so that could take 10 to 14 days by foot to walk back and forth. This was a long journey. This wasn't going to be a quick trek. Then they would have had to load everything up and walk it all back, now with women and children and an elderly father, right? And so they have a lot of distance on that journey walking back. And Joseph gives them some advice. Hey, don't take this walk to quarrel about everything that happened. Why would he say that? Well, think about everything that's happened. Within the last few minutes, potentially, hour or two at the most, they have had their life turned upside down. And it has brought up all these family secrets that they've held on to for years about their brother Joseph, who they had sold into slavery and left for dead. And now suddenly he's in front of them, revealing not only who he is, but that he's still alive. And now all this favor is thrown on them from him and from the king. And so much has happened. They have a lot to unpack. But he doesn't say, "Hey, don't talk about this on the way home." He says, "Don't quarrel. Don't fight about this on the way home." What does he mean? Well, think about that. There's probably a lot of blaming that could happen. There's probably a lot of what ifs that could happen. You know, as I was reading this, I was reminded of a similar situation in the book of Joshua. Maybe you're familiar with where I'm headed. Without going into full context, there's this crazy story where Joshua instructs the children of Israel to walk around the city limits of a city called Jericho. And as they do so, the walls come down. But the plan seems crazy, right? Literally, he's like, "Blow some trumpets, walk around 7 times, let's do this." But he gives them a crazy command. This is in Joshua chapter 7, verse 10. Joshua says to them, "Do not shout, do not even talk," Joshua commanded. "Not a single word from any of you until I tell you to shout, then shout." You know, he didn't want them to get discouraged by the grumblings. What are we doing? Why are we walking around this village? What's that leader think he's doing anyway? What's going to happen? I'm tired. I'm hungry. He didn't want them to get discouraged. And so he said, "Be silent." Some of you that are moms and dads, you know what I'm talking about. You've been on some car rides where you're like, "Stop talking," because the kids, right? Well, I think similarly here in the book of Genesis, Joseph is saying, "Hey, let it go. You don't have to have the meeting after the meeting." I don't know about your family, but sometimes a lot of problems arise because of all the background conversations. Have you been there? The issue started between A and B, but A goes and talks to these people in the family, and B goes and talks to these people in the family, and some of those people talk to each other, so they go back to B and tell them this, and they go back, right? Pot stirring, drama inspiring. And I think what Joseph was trying to say here was, hey, nothing more needs to be said. I've forgiven you. We're moving forward. You don't need to go back and blame Simeon for what he did or Judah for what he did. You don't need to be jealous of Benjamin because of the extra clothes I just gave him. You don't need to go back and plan out how you're going to tell the dad to make yourselves look good. You know what? Don't quarrel over this. I've forgiven you. Let's let it go. Let's have the conversation end in the amazing moment that just happened. You don't have to go unpack it on the way home. Maybe some silence would do you good. And I want to encourage you, when there's conflict within your home, how do you handle that? Are you a gossiper? Are you quick to talk to someone and give them an impression, but your mind's going crazy, and as soon as you're done, you go and you tell your sister all about what mom said? Or you go and you tell your brother all about what the cousin said yesterday. Or you're going and telling your dad one thing and your mom another thing, or your auntie this, your grandpa that. Some of us are stirring pots of dissension in our homes. We're fueling flames of discord. And we can learn something from some silence. We can learn something from when the conversation has happened, we end the conversation. We don't continue it with other people. We let it lie. And so I want us to be challenged by God's word to take these examples, this one from Genesis, the one I shared from Joshua. Is God maybe talking to you right now about how those things could be useful? Those examples could be useful in some situations that you're facing. Maybe there's some ground rules that you need to set forth within your home, upholding one another's confidentiality. You know, some of us have this feeling of within a home there isn't anything confidential. We're all free, and sometimes a little boundary is a helpful thing, right? Can you trust that when you share something with someone, it's going to stay there? Or do you know that that sister, that aunt, that cousin, that brother, they're going to tell everybody? Well, that doesn't breed honesty and trust. Are you someone where you act like you forgive, but then you go talk about them behind their back? Well, that doesn't produce healthfulness. And so I want to challenge you today. Are there some relationships that you need to put a boundary marker in line that we're no longer going to talk about grandma anymore? We're no longer going to talk about the black sheep in the family. We're no longer going to go and ask the questions to find out the tea. We're going to stop it here, and we're going to live above reproach with integrity. If someone has said they've forgiven, we're going to believe the best in them. Okay, let's move forward together. As they were venturing back home, Joseph didn't want them to go back to the same way of thinking they had before. He wanted to remind them to keep their eyes focused. A new day was dawning. Forgiveness had been offered. Let's walk that out. And so take some time today to talk to God about that. Maybe there's some relationships. Maybe there's some dynamics within your home that need to shift. Are you open to change by the power of God? I want to thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for another daily dose for spiritual growth.